Welcome to another session of Spirits and Monsters of Old Seattle. Whew, we had quite the interlude last time. With confrontations, propositions, and also Julian just hanging out in the wind. We had cakes that were served, effigies that were burned, and oaths that were sworn. It was quite a Halloween evening. So, we've got quite a bit to catch up on. However, our most significant item was a certain letter that was dropped off. Now, dear listener, our story typically takes place in the year 1888. However, I'd like to briefly take you back in time, further and further back as it were, 30 years back, to 1858. Picture this. We find ourselves in a small and fairly cheap flat here in Seattle. The home of Michael Corbett and a 13-year-old Sofie Ingesdotter. It's been 3 years since her mother disappeared, and she has lived with her stepfather Michael ever since. She sits propped up in bed, struggling to read through her mother's journal. Sofie's Norwegian isn't the best after failing to practice it for years, and she has reread passages over and over due to her mother's strange turns of phrase. She can't fully be sure on whether she misread something, or if her mother really wrote, "That will happen when bears fly." Michael sighs and finally puts a stopper into the top of his bottle. Sofie isn't sure what type of brown liquor he's drinking. She's not even certain he's sure. He stands on shaky legs and steadies his hands on the edge of the table. All right, girl. It's time to sleep. You put that light out now, you hear? The young Sofie is filled with distrust for this man, who has been in her life for 5 years, but still feels like a stranger. Rightly or wrongly, she blames him for her mother's disappearance. What she doesn't know is this is the last night she'll ever see him alive. He looks over at you, kind of swaying back and forth lightly. Does Sofie put out that lamp?
I think she glares at him for a minute and sort of waits to see if he will try to come and turn it off, because he's done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he makes a move, she just turns it off, really sullenly.
He waits for a little bit, expecting you to do it. And then if you make him start to come towards you, he kind of takes a step or two on kind of unsteady legs. And then she turns it down and turns it out.
Mm-hmm.
Sofie still has her mother's diary clutched in her hands, like she does most nights. Michael is drunk, exhausted, and slightly belligerent, and has no idea how to deal with a teenager. When she's turned the light out, he kind of stumbles off into the other room and reaches down to the desk that's in front of him. He pulls open a drawer, pulls out a pistol, tucks it into his hip, pulls out a journal, slips it into a coat pocket, and pulls out a heavy steel knife that he tucks into his boot. He reaches up to take a pen, dips the nib into the inkwell, and goes to begin writing a note, but as he's swaying, he accidentally hits the inkwell over, spilling it all over. He sighs, crumples up the paper, and just throws it out the window. As he heads out the door, he mutters to himself, "Fuck it. I'll just be back in a day or two. Hopefully with Inga."
Oh. Does she hear him say this?
I'll leave that for you to decide. He had told her to go to sleep. She had turned off the light. It was probably 15, 20 minutes later.
I think she probably hears him mumbling, but she doesn't necessarily
maybe just hears
hear.
the "fuck it."
Yeah.
All right. We smash back to the present. Sofie has been alerted that there is something on her doorstep. The girls are all a tizzy about it, and you are woken up in the middle of the night. At this point, in like November, so it's cold. You've probably got the fire going in the hearth. And on this cold, rainy night, a letter and a white lily have been left on your doorstep. None of the girls are going to check that letter before you do, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
Do you open it up?
Yeah, I don't know if they would have told her what it said on the front. Maybe they didn't even want to really, like, pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing they just told her there was a letter.
I think one of the younger girls here, someone who's like 15 or 16, would have grabbed it and run it over to you.
Okay.
Probably with the flower.
Yeah, so before she even looks at it, her first thought is, oh, maybe something's going on with the library, or maybe something from one of my acquaintances in town, has like some kind of emergency or something like that. And before she even looks at it, she's like, is someone waiting to retrieve a response? Or
They all look back and forth. No, there was no one there, Sofie. Miss Inga's daughter?
So then obviously she'll look down at the letter and she'll just stare at the words for a minute. And, if one of them asks her, like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And she'll just look up and sort of blankly, can you just give me a minute? I need to read this in private.
The girls are happy to give you your space. You could easily head back to your bedroom.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she'll go up there and lock the door and sit at her, her little desk upstairs, just the little one that she has in her bedroom, and just stare at it for another few minutes because she's scared to open it. And then eventually she will, of course.
All right. Do you want to read us the contents of that letter?
I'm gonna do it. Okay. My darling daughter Sofie, there is so much that I wish I could tell you, but our time and this paper are so very limited. I think of you so very often, and I miss you with my whole heart. I must ask that you not try to find me, though. I know it will be hard, but you must have ice in the basket. You must promise me that you will never come to Baldwin Farm. There is something terrible here, and I don't want you to become part of it. I hope to see you again someday, but it is out of my hands and in the mouth of the gods. Always with you, your mother Inga. Okay, Aaron is cracking up. Thank you, Brian, for the mouth of the gods. That was really good.
And ice in the basket.
And the ice in the basket. Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, I worked several Sophisms into this.
I very much appreciate it. Yeah. So obviously she is very emotional to see this. I mean, she recognizes the handwriting. It's the same as in the journal.
Yep. It's an exact match.
It's been 30 years since she saw that handwriting, and now here's this new, she's worn the pages of that journal, and now here's this new page that she hasn't ever seen before. And so she reads it a few times, but then she's like, logic, reasserts itself. This sounds, she's looking at the envelope, she's looking at the paper, she's looking at the ink. Is this new? Is this old? Is this old ink? Is the paper crumpled, that, something that was kept for a long time? Is it faded? She's trying to kind of get clues, even as she's like sort of like trying to breathe in and out to try to calm herself a little bit.
Give me an investigation test.
Okie dokie. 5 plus 5.
Old 10 dice Sofie.
1, 2. Ooh. 2 successes on 10 dice.
Okay. Sofie kind of focuses in, temporarily putting those emotions aside. There are things she has to know about this, has to approach logically. The ink on this paper is fairly fresh. Not so fresh that it will smear, but written within the last few weeks. The paper is similarly very new, not creased, not worn. This isn't a letter from 30 years ago. This was a letter that was just recently written, within the last couple of weeks at most. The envelope, the paper, all of it is exceptionally high quality. This is very nicely made.
Okay, then the next thing she thinks of is, why would my mother send me a letter after 30 years and tell me not to come and look for her and give me the place to not come look for her? Like, has she been held there all this time and she finally was able to get word out? But why be coy about it in that case? Why, if it's really her, what if she doesn't want me to come there, then why even send me a letter in the first place? Why now?
These are all great questions that perhaps will be revealed further on. A reasonable answer.
Yeah, so Sofie, like, her gears are just going. And she's not like a really emotional person, and she is not used to being overwhelmed with things. Like, she somewhat recently got overwhelmed because she saw Madame Myrtle, and now this, and in the back of her mind she's like, maybe I shouldn't have gone to work for the freaking library. this is a lot of stuff happening. But she's just trying to assert her logical response and like thinking about the problem and everything. But she's also like, she can't help but have a little part of her be hopeful and excited about, what if maybe she really is alive, and I don't know, maybe there's a chance. So
what's she gonna do?
I think, it's late at night. She's not going to be able to just go to sleep. I think the first thing she would do is she's going to get like, if the girls knew what had happened and then saw her actions, they would be a little bit confused. Like, why is she being so businesslike? Because she's just trying to be like very practical, and she's not going to cry, and she's not going to have hysterics, because that's not how she is. And she's just going to go about things and be methodical. So she just gets dressed again. She puts like her coat on and her scarf and her hat and everything. And she pops out of her room, and I'm sure all the girls are like outside her room, like waiting to see.
100%.
Yeah. They're all like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And she just walks out and gives instructions to them, which is what she normally does. Like, normally, I think in this kind of a house, there is usually somebody up at all times. Like, the whole house is never asleep.
Yep.
So she just sort of gives a little bit of direction of who should stay up and watch out for the younger girls, or keep an eye on the front door, or whatever, And she will assure them that everything is fine. Clearly something is up, but I think they know better than to like ask for details, because they probably don't even want to know details. In general,
they want to know the details.
In this situation, yes, but they know that she deals with some weird stuff, so I don't think they will press her for an explanation. But she'll just say that she has to check on something at the library, and she is her house in walking distance of the library, like easy walking distance, or?
Yes, but it is through the pitch black.
Oh yeah, hell no.
Now, you do know Sofie has had installed several street lamps down her block,
Right. I was going to say the first thing she does is walk out the door and go, what happened to the lights?
Yeah, it is night black out there.
Okay. So she's going to also see, she's not going to go to the library by herself right now, but she is going to go and see if she can see like any clues. She'll have to grab a lantern from inside, any clues as to who may have left it. And also she's going to check the first street lamp and see if she sees anything that might have caused it to go out. I mean, she knows at this point there's weird stuff out at night.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it's most likely a practical answer, but she's going to check anyway.
Yep. Give me a vigilance test.
Okay, that will be 2 plus 5. Well, that was no successes on 7 dice. So...
Do you want to push that roll?
No, not yet. Oh, don't worry.
Okay.
I'm sure I will have plenty of rolls to push later.
Oh, it's coming. I am quite certain of that, in fact. So she does spot like a few tracks kind of in the muddy street, but it's impossible to tell much from them. And the closest street lamp, the wick, looks like it was just smothered out.
Okay. Then, can she... Would I have to... How would I get a conveyance from here to... I mean, do I have horses at my house? I think I only have, like, cows and sheep.
I was going to say, not at this time, you don't have horses.
Yeah. And, I mean, I live... Not in the boondocks, but I live in a residential...
Yeah, like on the edge of kind of Ballard.
Yeah, and so it's not like there's like nightlife or anything happening anywhere nearby. She stands there for a minute and looks down out into the darkness, and she kind of rubs her shoulder for a minute. Like, I really want to go to the library right now, but also I shouldn't be out at night like this by myself. And she will go back into the house. And
probably put a kettle on.
Yeah, I mean, she'll just take her hat off and go tell the girls that something's happened to the streetlights, and she's always telling them it's not safe at night. And so she's not going to chance it either. She's just going to wait until first light, and then she'll head out.
Sounds good. You head over first thing in the morning as soon as the streets begin to lighten. Do you, as either Sofie or Aaron, want your companions looped in on this?
I think the first person that I will talk to is Matthias. Mateo, Rogbert.
Wow, Bill and Phoenix just started shaking their heads in sync. It was amazing. It's a shame this is an audio-only medium audience. You're missing out.
Someday. Yeah, no thanks. She'll first talk to Matthias because he knows about her past. I mean, I don't know that she has given him a ton of detail, but she definitely told him when she kind of first started working here that that her mom had disappeared, and then her stepdad disappeared, and whatever. And so she will show him the letter and also the flower and ask him if any of it does he recognize anything about the letter, about the name of the farm, Baldwin. I already tabbed away from it, Baldwin Farm. And does a lily, do you know if a lily, does she know if a lily signifies anything?
It often signifies loss.
Right.
Sort of a parting.
Like it's a funeral flower.
A funerary flower, yep. Let's see. I would allow you to make a learning test. if you'd like to know more.
Okay. Okay, that's good. 1, 2, 3 successes on 10 dice. I know so much about lilies, and there's only like one thing to know, probably.
Well, there are a couple, actually.
Okay.
So there are multiple things that are associated with lilies. There are quite a few different deities who have that as kind of a sacred flower, like the goddess Ishtar or Esther, the goddess Hera. They're also very commonly associated with nymphs, given that kind of cycle of death and resurrection and luring things in, and also are associated with the neck. And for those unfamiliar, we'll learn more about the neck if Sofie feels like making learning tests later on.
It's Brian's favorite monster.
That part is true.
Okay. So she will show it to Matthias and, discuss with him to see if he knows any more than she does, if he has any clues, if he knows about Baldwin Farm, etc., etc.
That particular name isn't familiar to him. He kind of racks his memory for it, but can't come up with anything. But obviously says any resources that the library has, they will make available for you.
Okay, then in that case, I think I don't know, she's probably been up all night, so she's ruminated enough, I think, that she'll just go ahead and send runners for Dr. J and Julian, because she's not, like, sensitive about the history, it's not like that's not her dark secret. She doesn't really have a dark secret anymore. That's not like anything that's that she wants to keep hidden from them, and she knows that they will, be able to help her figure out what's going on.
Sounds good. Dr. Lucius Jensen receives a messenger asking you to proceed to the library with post haste and to find Sofie in the library itself.
All right, I'll finish up at the patient in my clinic, and I'll head out to the library as soon as I can. I guess. Let me ask this: how is there any urgency provided with the that you sent with the runners, or is it just that you want us to meet you at the library, Sofie?
I think Sofie probably worded it such that ostensibly it's not urgent, but you get the feeling that you really need to go.
I mean, would Sofie have sent people if it was not an emergency?
Yeah. But she doesn't say in the letter, she doesn't say in the message, like, I need you to come right now. She's like, a matter of some import has sprung up.
Occurred.
I need your assistance.
Yeah, I'll finish up with my patient and get myself ready, make myself look presentable. So it'll take a little bit of extra time, but I will move to the library, but not. I guess it wouldn't be expedient.
You have a particularly chatty patient as you are kind of checking their vitals, and all they want to talk about is what they've been reading about in the newspapers. There is a big dust-up happening between Ballard and Seattle. The city of Seattle is starting to do a lot of saber rattling that they are going to annex Ballard. And quite a few of the fishermen in Ballard want nothing to do with it.
While the patient is talking about this, Lucius will go into what he affectionately calls Julian mode. He'll just like, oh, interesting, okay, as he's just checking, not just not paying attention whatsoever. Just, oh, okay.
Fantastic. Julian, a messenger arrives first via mosquito boat, and then a runner is sent to pass the same news on to you in Seattle.
Yeah, what time is this messenger arriving?
Very early.
Yeah.
I mean, if she left her house in November at 7:30 when it's light, and
I was going to say probably at like 6:30 as it's like just starting to lighten up.
all right, then yeah, probably like 8 o'clock, which is really early for Julian.
Yeah.
Really late for Julian.
It's a little bit of both. Depends on the day.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, this gets dropped into his very soft, very plush bed where he is resting in silk pajamas and an eye mask that has some little lace frills on the side of it. What? Sofie? 5 more minutes. He'll eventually take off his eye mask and go into Julian mode, which is to say he looks dashing even at this hour. He'll read through it and yeah, just kind of falls back into the bed and just throws the blankets over himself. It's so early. It's a good thing all of the girls at the place that she lives at like me. I'll get dressed. Shang-Hu? No, he still doesn't like me. Never mind. I
mean, Shang-Hu appreciates you. Somewhat begrudgingly.
I mean, it's impossible not to like me.
Exactly.
It's just a physical impossibility and rule of the universe, and I know this to be true in my heart of hearts. But I'll go make myself breakfast anyway, and groggily make my way across the water and head on over to the library.
Sounds good. There are a few people who are taking the boats at this point, and the folks who are on that boat with you are quite chatty. And all they want to talk about is the dust-up in the newspapers. The Seattle Post-Intelligencer has been writing articles that the city of Ballard is very close to running out of water. And the city of Seattle has graciously been selling them water to keep the town going. But really, they should think about being annexed at this point and becoming part of the growing Seattle community.
Feels like there's a Nestle joke to be made in there somewhere, but I'm just going to let that one slide.
Ooh. Maybe don't kick that Nestle of Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the pair of you make your way to the library, where, surprise, surprise, you find Sofie and old Agda in the library, digging through stacks and tomes, looking for information.
Per usual.
Mm-hmm.
I brought pumpkin spiced scones, I say, with still a little bleary-eyed.
Sofie will very uncharacteristically get up and hug you.
Okay. This must be serious. And give you a hug back.
She will, I think that she would have told Julian. I don't know if she's told Dr. J about her parents, but I think she would have told Julian at least, like the minimum of, oh yeah, my mom, blah, blah, and then she was gone, and then whatever.
Oh man, if Hannah wanted to do something super cool right now, we could do a flashback to episode 5, where Sofie said, I'm going to find out what happened to my parents someday, and someone's going to pay for it. Hannah, if you want to be super cool, that'd be awesome.
Oh, dear, dear Brian. Ask, and ye shall receive.
Oh, you bet.
For quite some time, I have been, I wanted to, she was taken from me when I was quite young. I believe I was about 14. And,
oh no, who took her?
Well, one day I shall find that out, Kaylin, and then there will be hell to pay.
Wow, it's a really good thing I have that extra capital.
Here's the episode where Sofie kills even more people. So yeah, she knows that Julian is aware of, the base situation, and she will just hand him the letter.
Oh, I've already read one page this morning.
Phoenix, it is unintelligible.
Is it? Why?
You stare at it for a minute. It's entirely written in Norwegian.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was like magically encoded so only Sofie could read it.
It is being written in Norwegian.
It says that on here, a letter originally written in Norwegian, and I just missed that. Okay.
So I love the idea of Julia just staring at this and being like, huh, okay.
And yeah, and Sophie's just like, oh, and then she just takes it back and she'll tell him what it says. Julian, it's from my mother. She's been gone for 30 years. How?
Wait.
Agda and I have been looking for this Baldwin Farm, but so far I've no idea where it is.
Have I ever heard of Baldwin Farm?
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Nope.
As you're kind of describing all of this and filling me in and reading it, I mean, Julian has been very much, trying. He's a little still very, very bleary-eyed. He's not fully there as he's made his way over. But the more you talk about it and what is going on, the more he is like waking up. And then by the time you're done with it, he is just in full mouth agape. Wait, what? Where did this come from?
It was dropped at my door last night, and I suspect that whoever brought it somehow doused all my street lamps. And it came with a lily. Do you have any special insight about lilies? And I just tell him, the few things that I know that it has anything to do with.
Julian goes through a mental Rolodex of lilies he's known.
Mm-hmm.
But
there are several.
I don't think she's talking about them. Do I know any additional information about lilies?
You can feel free to make a learning test.
I'm so awesome at those.
It's a learning test. Wait, if I had known.
All right.
You already made one.
No, I was joking about Julian.
That's another callback, Brian.
Oh, my mistake.
All right, 3 dice. You're not going to believe this.
Mm-hmm.
With Brian's magical enchanted dice, I rolled 3 successes on 3 dice.
You're kidding me. You're the devil.
Right?
Brian, I love you, my friend.
Phoenix, I'm going to need those back soon.
No.
I need to roll those on my side of the screen.
No,
you don't. No, it's bad enough as it is.
So yeah, I will say Julian, to even his own surprise, does know a fair amount about lilies. In part, since they're always having flowers brought into Madame Lou's, in part because he's known a lot of people named Lily.
It's a mnemonic device.
Yep.
Yeah.
And has picked up some little details about their names, or occasionally they'll share like, oh, this was the favorite flower of this goddess, which is why I'm such a goddess. And Julian's like, of course you are, darling.
My darling, Aphrodite could not hold a candle.
Mm-hmm.
But he knows basically the same info that Sofie was able to come up with. There is a very strong association with lilies and nymphs. And again, they kind of tend to be associated with things that are very funerary in Western cultures, passage of time, the underworld, and also a lot of creatures of water.
So to both, I'm sure, Sofie and, I won't say Julian's, but I will say to Sofie and Phoenix's surprise, he just kind of rattles off all of these details. Oh, yes. I've known all of these things. Isn't it common knowledge? You know, Lily told me about this one, and then Lily told me about this other thing. Oh, but then there was the time that Lily told me about, yes, so.
And all the rest of you can think is, Julian has some weird pillow talk.
Look,
I learned some strange things.
I don't kink shame. I'm not going to yuck on someone's yum.
Even if it's sharing fun facts.
Hey, Lily, fun fact?
All right. Dr. Jensen has been here for most of this. How is he kind of taking all this in?
I think he is perplexed. He's not fully following the entire conversation, but he's just intent on listening to try and get his bearings, I guess. He's not interjecting yet until he understands a little bit better on what we're here for.
Once Sofie realizes that Dr. J is there and that he doesn't know the backstory or whatever, she will fill him in briefly, about the fact that her mother should not be able to write her a letter right now.
Oh, dear. Okay.
But there was this time that Lily told me about nymphs, and I think she was trying to make a point about flexibility or something, but that is neither here nor there. I've already told this to Sofie.
Yes, in other earth-shattering news, it turns out that Julian is a flower expert.
Dr. Jensen will just kind of look at him like, nah, there's no surprise there.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's known lilies, he's known petunias, he's known plenty of
roses,
violets.
Yeah.
Drinking and otherwise.
Here are my outstanding questions about this situation. This letter is recent, and I'm very familiar with her handwriting. It is her handwriting. There's no question. Why write this letter to me now? Why tell me not to come and then name the place? It could be some sort of a trap. I can't be sure, but it definitely seems that something strange is going on. I don't trust it, but I can't afford not to investigate.
Is there anyone associated with your mother that would... I mean, you say a trap. A trap for what?
I don't know. I mean, my mother nor my stepfather were ever in any way associated with the things we are associated with here. I didn't come to find out about them until several years ago. So it can't be that, but I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, Dr. Jensen will kind of... There's an uneasiness about all of this, but he just kind of looks like, I mean, well, if you need help going out to searching this, I think it'd be better for all of us to go, not just you by yourself. We'll kind of look to Julian, like, right? Like,
I just nod. Yeah, I nod emphatically along with that.
I would certainly appreciate the help.
how far away is this place that we need to go to?
I don't think Agda and I haven't found any reference to it here in the library yet. I suppose our next stop is to go to insert location where one might find out about maps and things in 1886 Seattle.
I believe it's called MapQuest.
It's a quest to find an accurate map.
We could always ask Jeeves.
You could ask Jeremy. It's like Ask Jeeves, but it's a little less efficient, and sometimes it accidentally steals your coat.
It's a lot like Ask Jeeves.
Yeah.
So what I will allow you to do is, if you'd like to do some research and try and track down Baldwin Farm, you could make a test here in the library. That will be a learning test, and that will give you a +3 bonus from being in the library itself. You could also get a +1 bonus from each of your allies helping, which would be a ludicrous 15 dice for Sofie.
All right, then.
I'm sure you won't get any successes.
All right, I'm going to do 12 first because that's well. I'll do 10, and then I'll do another 5. Okay, that was 1.
Julian could have done that on 3 successes.
I
Or 3
know.
dice.
You could have done that on 3 dice. Easy.
I mean,
Oh,
clearly.
that's 3 more on 5 dice, so that was a total of 4. Thanks, Julian. I mean, Phoenix. Whoever dice are the opposite of cursed. I don't know.
Oh, Brian, I'm excited for
Mhm.
this, and I'm also just so sorry. I feel like when we're getting these, 4 and 5 success
Mhm.
rolls on things, it's got to just be throwing everything off.
Oh, no, I'm just quietly adjusting the difficulty on the later adventures.
I mean, I also feel like
Can we
Brian, you
limit this to
prepare-
the good dice rollers and then me?
Yeah, that's true. Bill doesn't really need a handicap so well.
Things started off so well for you, Bill. But don't worry, whatever you need, it's always going to be -1.
Yeah, I mean, you prepare a lot of information and do a lot of research for it, so I don't think it's a bummer for you to be able to like actually share all the tidbits.
No, I'm happy to do that. So, speaking of, you have learned a little bit about Baldwin Farm. It actually took all 3 of you and old Agnes searching through records to be able to find anything. There was a single census record that mentioned a Baldwin Farm on an old Seattle census in a spot known as Smith's Cove. It's found at the intersection between 2 bays of Puget Sound, and Smith's Cove has a long history of madness. Over half a dozen farmers and homesteaders have had to be committed to sanitariums over the past 10 years, all attributed to the loneliness and isolation of the area. Matthias's mentor actually had sent an agent from the library out to investigate, who was named Ichabod Kells. He looked into this in 1878, although there is no record of him ever returning.
Oh! So, guys, let's head out. Let's pack a picnic basket and we'll just toodle over there. It'll be fine.
Got ourselves a mystery.
That you do. So, you've got a direction to head. I will have a little bit more background information for you in just a second about Baldwin Farm and Smith's Cove. But first, we've got a little bit of catching up to do. Each of you has an opportunity to do some purchasing of equipment in town. But, dear listener, there's a catch. With the newspaper stories going back and forth about Seattle potentially trying to annex Ballard, local merchants have been very touchy about pricing. And right before Seattle potentially floods the market with new money, they're trying to wring local Ballard folk for what they can. So, everything in town is more expensive right now. Now, believe me, you'll appreciate this. We took care of all the admin work of actually buying stuff before we started recording.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, there was a lot.
Who doesn't love shopping?
Listener, it took literally like an hour. And an hour of, I could buy this. No, I just don't know. Maybe I should. Oh, what if I get a sword? No, I don't need a sword.
I don't know. It's just not in character.
Oh, do you need a sword? Oh, we might all need swords.
Well, where would I keep this?
Yeah, trust me. We did you a solid.
Julian with a garrote, there is something interesting about it, and yet it's just not his thing.
I am just so disappointed you didn't get the dog.
Moving on. All right, so running through each of our players real quick, we're going to go over what you kept from the previous mystery, any equipment that you're taking from the library's cellar, or drugs being taken out of the infirmary, and what your character's advantage is for this mystery. Aaron, I'm going to pick you last because you've just gotten a bunch of information that's going to kind of rock Sophie's world, and that might have an impact on her advantages.
Yes.
So, starting with Bill.
Oh.
What is Dr. Jensen bringing forward into this mystery? Are there any things that you want to take from the library, purchases you've made, and what is your advantage?
Okay. Keeping with consistency, Dr. Jensen will be holding on to his knuckle dusters. He, finding the revolver in the last mystery and the suite of drugs was beneficial, but Dr. Jensen's not quite proficient at ranged combat, so the revolver is probably not worth it. And we'll just store up the infirmary with the drugs until we need them, probably at a later date.
Okay. I'm sure you won't need drugs to help deal with mental conditions during this mystery.
That's a good point.
Why you gotta be like that?
You've met me. I'm a game master. This is how we do.
It is how you do.
Maybe I should take the laudanum. I'll put a pin in that for the moment.
We can come back to that.
Let's see. With my 3 capital, and then through my resources, I got an extra capital, so 4. I will be spending 1 in our tithe to
King Toon.
There we go. And then I will be spending 3 to shut up a local busybody.
A blackmailer?
Someone that deserves to get punched.
Wait, you're paying me 3?
Oh boy. But speaking of punching, the advantage I'm going to go with for this mystery is I'm going to call it Smoldering Rage. Dr. Jensen is still not happy after his little endeavor with Vic there. So he's gonna be ready to
Throw some hands.
jump into action. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, and Phoenix. What is Julian brought forward? What has he purchased? And what is his advantage? Is there anything you're taking from the stores?
So, in terms of what he's bringing forward, he's keeping his normal kind of loadout of he's always got a pistol tucked in, kind of behind his back.
Mm-hmm.
He's also keeping his violin case of holding, which has his makeup, costumes, and fine wines. He is also bringing forward from the last mystery his elegant disguise to really try to help himself out, which I have been forgetting to use for its actual purpose of giving me the ability to sneak with manipulation rather than stealth. So I'm going to remember that from now on. Also, in terms of what he's purchasing, the time that we were spending with Hamish and some of the discussions that he and I had over food and some of those memories, he has actually gone in and purchased a field kitchen full of supplies and spices and all sorts of good stuff that remind him of his father and mother's cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as his advantage goes, well, last time we had to swear the sacred creed of Artemis, and that was fun. But as he was thinking about it, Julian was thinking, I solemnly swear not to be corrupted? Well, I mean, that's possible, but I think I'm going to go with the sacred creed of Erato, the Greek muse of erotic poetry. So, it's fine. If we can avoid being corrupted, we probably should, but we'll see.
I cannot wait to see how this advantage plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
And last but not least, Sofie.
So Brian was like, I'm going to wait until after the intro for you to do your advantage, but that just meant that now I can't think of anything. I don't know what to do. And I keep thinking of stuff, but it doesn't make sense.
Advantage, I'm gonna find my mom.
I mean, I thought about, like, having something else of her mom's that she will, like a handkerchief or something that she kept. But, I mean, like, I've already done that with the journal, so it just feels redundant.
Well, it does sound like Sophie's a little suspicious of this. So what about an advantage like hunt for the truth?
Yeah, like, I was thinking the thing that she would want to do would be to keep her, like, to use her logic and not let emotion overwhelm her. So however we could flavor that.
We could even create an advantage called put emotions aside.
There you go.
Or like maybe cold logic or no distractions.
Feelings come later.
How about, like, this may be dumber than what you guys have said, but how about, like, reason prevails?
I love it.
So that, like, if she's seeing stuff, because also what Mira said about things you can see. So if she's seeing stuff that's like, hey, this is effing crazy, she could be like, wait a minute, I'm gonna think logically about this.
These numbers don't add up.
Right.
Yep, I love it.
Okay.
See, it was good that you waited. You came up with something great.
Okay. Thank you guys for your input. Now we're recording again.
We could, because of the grace of our editor, just say, so Aaron, what are you choosing for an advantage?
So Sophie's advantage will be, what did I just say? Reason prevails. Will be
Perfect.
Could it actually be what did I just say? And then it's Sophie gets to forget any mental trauma she has while she's researching or something.
That's spoilers for new powers I'm coming up with.
Yeah. Okay, sorry guys. I'm writing it down now.
So, Aaron, what's Sophie's advantage going to be for this mystery?
Who's Sophie?
Aaron will now be playing the character Matthias.
So Sophie's advantage will be reason prevails, and basing on what Mira had said to her at the party and everything that's going on right now, she will just try to remember to trust in logic and not be overwhelmed by the things that she may see or encounter on this trip.
Sounds perfect.
In addition to that, she is keeping the camera that she had in the last mystery, and she has also purchased a compass.
Excellent. That sounds like it'll be useful. And is she taking anything from the item stores? You do have a hurricane lantern in there, as well as an elegant disguise and a shotgun. And you also have a bunch of drugs that Dr. Jensen acquired in the previous mystery.
So I can just take an additional thing? I can only...
Yep.
How many things can I have?
You can take all of them. The only limit is you can only bring one item forward.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Phoenix has clarified there is not an elegant disguise. There is liquor in your cellar. Dear listener, most importantly, if you take one thing away from our episode, it's that the players took the not at all haunted doll out and gave it to old Agda.
Yes.
And it is now sitting on a shelf watching them in the library.
Hey, that's what helped me find the reference to Baldwin Farms. So, because I was avoiding the entire side of the library that she was on, and thus the other side of the library, that was where I found the reference to Baldwin Farms. So it's a good luck charm. Maybe I should take it. I'm not going to take it. Okay, then, yeah, sure, I'll take the hurricane lantern too.
Okay. Hello, dear listener. It's your host and game master, Brian. I wanted to take just a quick moment and ask you, dear listener, a question. What would you do if you ruled a country of your own? What laws would you make? What kinds of demands would you make of your people? And what scandals would inevitably bring you down? Well, if you've ever perhaps wondered this very question, I have a podcast I'd like to introduce you to. It's called Tyrant in Training. Each week, host Kevin Ryan asks a new guest how they would rule over a country of their own, and then things quickly and inevitably spiral out of control. You can find Tyrant in Training on all of your favorite podcatchers, as well as the Umbrella Podcast Collective page at www.rainydayrabbitholes.com/umbrella. There you'll find your next favorite show. Here's Kevin to share a bit more about these training wheel tyrants.
Hello, I am Kevin. I am the host of the Tyrant in Training podcast. It's a improv comedy podcast, and to help explain what exactly it is, I brought along my fiancée, Celine.
Hello.
Well done. Okay, Celine, what is the Tyrant in Training podcast about?
It is a podcast where you bring on guests and you ask them what they would do if they were ruling their own country, and you ask a bunch of fun questions.
There's loads of questions, like what would be the name of their island, and what political scandal would they be involved in?
So here's what happened.
I don't know the words to Gangster's Paradise.
The money will go back to the homeless eventually.
Celine, laugh. Perfect. You can listen to the Tyrant in Training podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. You can find Tyrant in Training on its website, tyrantintraining.podcast page. You can also find me online at Kev Ryan Person. Listen and wonder, why am I interviewing these guests who have awful opinions?
All right. Now armed, provided with advantages, and ready, our party sets off. Now, successfully locating Baldwin Farm is not an easy feat. Even knowing the general area, you're gonna have to do some searching. Here in Ballard, there's no mention of it on any local surveys or maps. And a few of the old-timers have a vague recollection of hearing the name before. It takes a couple hours, but you're slowly and surely able to piece its general location together. South of Ballard is Salmon Bay, and the area south of that is known as Smith's Cove. Most of the claims and cabins there were burned during the Puget Sound War of 1855, save a few that had maintained good relations with the local indigenous populations. While most of those who lived there chose to settle into Seattle or Ballard, some returned and built up farms in this more wild and empty region. It's a common joke in Ballard that the salt marshes that surround the two interbays made it Ballard's reservoir. There's a bit of truth to the joke. The city of Ballard does have a desperate need of fresh water, given how fast it's growing. But the few small pools and lakes on Smith's Cove are not going to be enough to support Ballard's growing population. Now, you managed to pretty easily get over there, and there are a few farms that you're able to start checking in with, trying to track down this strange Baldwin Farm. However, unlike the farms you visited in Ballard, this place feels isolated and distant. There's a great deal of space in between farmsteads, and the young pine trees block most of your view out from the Puget Sound. As you ask for directions, you're met with a colder reception, and it takes your most winning smiles, an offer of alcohol, and a few dollars to pry directions from farmers' lips. When they finish sharing the way, they cross themselves and will say no more. You follow overgrown footpaths and steadily wind your way deeper and deeper into this wilder land. To your surprise, you come across a lake where mist and fog drifts over the surface. It's difficult to tell just how large it is, but the path towards Baldwin Farm allegedly lies beyond. As you draw closer, you can make something out on the edge of the mist. To your surprise, fence posts have been driven into the earth. Each and every one is carved with dozens of crosses and has a steel crucifix nailed into it. The fence posts cross the dead center of the footpath, dipping down into the waters of the lake and wrapping back and around into the trees. The eerie call of a loon echoes out from the still mists. which swirl and dance in the water and amongst the trees. It's almost impossible to see what lies beyond them, but you might just barely be able to make out a few structures. What'll you do?
Can you remind me which skill it is for the Vasan version of perception?
Vigilance.
May I make a vigilance test to see
Absolutely.
what I can see?
Mm-hmm.
Not my strength, but I'll give it a shot. You know what? We're gonna do this. We're gonna give roll 20 another shot here, just to see what happens.
Poor choice.
Probably true. 1 success on 4 dice.
All right, that's not nothing. You kind of pause everybody before heading on and are looking over the area. You, as I mentioned, can hear kind of the call of a loon. The mist kind of stirs a little bit here and there. It's hanging really low over the ground and blocking most of your sight. This footpath is old and overgrown and muddy. It doesn't look like anyone has walked down this way in quite a long time.
This is the farm we think that we need to meet your mother, Sofie?
Well, she did say... She said there was something terrible here. I have no idea what that might be.
Well, as I recall, didn't she tell you in that letter you read to me, this isn't where we go to find her, this is where she told us to stay away from?
She said, you must not come find me at Baldwin's Farm. Hold on, I'm bringing the letter up again. Yeah, you must promise me that you will never come to Baldwin Farm. There's something terrible here, and I don't want you to become a part of it. But obviously that's the only clue we have to find her, so I...
Does this mean anything to you, Sofie? And I point her to the fence posts with those carved crosses, the steel crucifix. I remember you told us something about, like, with the trolls, how they hate these Christian symbols. Is this like a troll repellent?
It seems like it could be troll repellent, or there may be other Vasan that also are put off by Christian symbols. I mean, the history of the origin Vasan in Scandinavia is deeply tied to the prevalence and growth of Christianity in that area, and thus I think there are likely many Vasan who are repelled by such a thing.
And I won't even make you roll a learning test for this one. Sofie knows for a fact that the majority of Vasan at most will, probably at least will avoid Christian symbols. Quite a few of them are actively repelled or weakened by them. And Christian symbols are used in the banishment rites of a number of Vasan.
Brian, you had said that the path itself is fairly overgrown, does not look like anyone had been traveling any time. Do these fence posts look equally kind of like overgrown and in disrepair, or do they look like they are clear and...
Nah, these look pretty old.
Okay. Well, if these are meant to keep the Vasan out, or maybe it's, to Julian's point, it's someone afraid of any Vasan coming on their property.
It could even be my mother who placed these here, though I mean...
Your mother has the site as well?
No, but with our heritage, and especially her having been lived most of her life in that area, one is always aware of the folklore. And I mean, even here, many people believe in things that are perhaps not the things prescribed by the church, and thus it is everywhere, especially places that have such a long history. Thus, I'm sure that she would have many ideas of how to keep away Vasan, even if she didn't really know what a Vasan is. But,
GM, two questions. The fence post, I'm sorry, I'm sure you said this, but how far? Like, they're blocking our path.
You could walk around them pretty easily, though.
Okay, so this is not, it's not like penning it in, it's just blocking our path.
Yep. There's probably about 4 to 5 feet in between each fence post.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like a solid one.
Yeah.
They just kind of form a circle.
So it's more like a ward rather than a fence.
You could say that.
And then, are the crucifixes, the crucify, are the steel crucifixes all on one particular side of, like, are they all facing the same direction?
Nope.
No.
Sometimes it's on the one side facing you. Sometimes you can see them like kitty corner on the other side, like half hanging off the post. It seems like it was done almost randomly.
Okay.
Did you say that the fence posts go down into the water or around?
Into the water.
Huh.
You don't know for sure if it keeps going below the actual surface of this lake, but you can see at least on the shore and for a few feet out, the fence posts are still plugged into the ground.
Which I think helps lead credence to the ward theory.
Uh-huh.
Well, but how is it going to manage to keep something out if it's just this one? And I walk around to show. I mean, it's not. It's not creating a wall.
You're not a Vossen.
But if I were, wouldn't I just need to walk? I don't know, 100 yards that away.
So you start walking kind of towards the trees, and you see there are more fence posts continuing off in that direction.
So it's probably a perimeter.
It seems like it.
Okay, that's the part I was misunderstanding. Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can we see to the opposite side of the water?
Due to that mist that's kind of lingering over it, can't be quite sure how far back it goes.
Okay.
I suppose there's like a stray rowboat or something around, is there?
Nah, not out here. If only you'd thought to purchase one.
I was just going to say, if only we had purchased the rowboat. Listeners, the rowboat does not exist as a thing that we can purchase, just FYI.
Yet? Give me a month or two and I'll come up with a supplement.
Yes, ship paddles.
I mean, you get a whole bunch of rifle butts, strap them together.
And... yes, the butt armada. Julian's quite familiar.
Julian, Grand Admiral of the Butt Armada.
Mm-hmm.
Full title, please. Rear Admiral.
Oh, God.
Anyways.
Okay, so we've determined that there's a perimeter of fence posts. It does seem like we should continue in the direction we were going because we want to get to the center of the perimeter, one would think.
Yeah, there's something nagging at me that, it could keep something out. What if it's trying to keep something in?
So...
I guess there's only one way to find out.
Maybe we should be wary of our step if we are coming in, just to see if there's other deterrents laid about.
It's a good idea.
That's fair.
I do have this hurricane lantern, which I think totally helps with that. No?
I mean, it'll help you see, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so you press on.
Press on.
All right.
You trudge through the mists, just barely able to see the muddy path beneath your feet. Water droplets bead onto your clothing from the heavy mist, and it has a clinging and slightly chilly feel to it. You splash through puddles left from cart tracks, and you shiver. Everything is damp and wet feeling. And once you're back home, you think about looking forward to warm fireplaces and dry socks. At the end of the muddy dirt path, you come upon a large, dilapidated farmhouse. The building leans slightly, its 2 floors at a slightly precarious angle. It's clearly poorly maintained, and ferns have sprung up from the deep puddles that surround its stone base. Clumps of mosses grow from its wooden boards, creeping across the surface and the roof in the cool fog. Water pools and small depressions around the building, some puddles so large and filled with algae and lily pads that you can't even see the ground beneath them. Beyond the farmhouse, there are several other buildings that you can see just on the edges of the mist. A large barn sits away behind it, while an outbuilding lies further on. A neat and orderly row of trees hints at what might be an orchard not too far away. The glow of candlelight emanates from the partially open door to the farmhouse and behind the curtained windows. It's hard to say for certain what might be inside, but it's likely dry and at least well lit. You listen for a moment and catch the soft notes of a woman's voice, humming and singing. It sounds like it's coming from beyond the cracked open door of the farmhouse.
I turn to the other two. Do we call out? See if we can get them to come to the door? Or do you want to just walk up and knock? Or just turn around and go home? That would also be okay, I suppose. But no, we're here for you, Sofie.
Perhaps we can get a little bit closer and see if we can observe a little bit more before we go to the door or call out. Because there's obviously something not right here, but I'm not sure what it is yet.
Nod.
Three of you kind of creep a little bit closer to that door, and that voice that you were hearing slowly fades away, like it's moving somewhere deeper into the house. Kind of wait, watch for a few moments. You feel that cold start to set in. Have you ever been in a really deep, deep fog? The kind that you can only see with perfect visibility maybe 20, 30 feet away. It has that chilly, cold air to it that feels like the water is sinking into your clothes, sinking into your hair, clinging to your face. The three of you continue to watch, and you see a little bit of movement here and there. You think there might be someone who's near to some of those windows, but you can't be 100% sure.
I've brought you here, and this is my responsibility, so I'll go ahead and see if anyone will respond to me. And Sofie will walk ahead a little bit. She's not going to walk all the way up to the house, but maybe a few feet away from the stairs.
Do you want us to come with, or do you want us to stay out of sight back here?
Come with me, but I should be up front.
Very well. I straighten her collar a bit.
Aaron, Sofie notices one more thing. There is a muddy path that leads from the front door of the farmhouse kind of downhill. And just on the edge of the mist, she's able to see water. It looks like that's where the lake is.
So someone walks from the house to the lake. At least
on a semi-reasonable.
Occasionally, yeah. Gears are turning. Okay.
I think Lucius is going to just keep an eye on our flank while so I'll be sticking next to Julian, but just kind of keeping an eye on where we came from and just make sure that if we need a quick egress, we can do that.
Yeah, there are thick clouds of the mist that are swirling behind you, all kind of stirred up from your passage. Does Sofie head towards the door?
We got your back, Sofie.
She's gonna stop at the bottom of the stairs and call out, "Hello? Is someone there?"
There are a few moments of silence, and then you begin to hear something moving inside the house. Do the three of you just wait?
Something or someone?
She will start to head up the stairs, but she's not going to go inside until she, kind of gets more bearings or something. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got a compass. You should be able to get your bearings really fast.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
You're about halfway up the stairs when the door is pushed open. And you can see a figure silhouetted in the light coming from an entry hall. But we'll get to who that is next time.
Are you kidding me? Oh my god.
Man.
Thank you all so much, and I cannot wait for our next session. I'm definitely ending on that noise. Thank you for listening to this episode of Spirits and Monsters of Old Seattle. Our theme song is Myths and Legends by Robert Bruckmeyer, which is playing right now. Our music is by Andreas Lundström, and you can hear more of his work on the Sweden Rolls podcast. Link in the show notes. Our editor is Hannah Cheney. If you're enjoying this show, please take 2 minutes to rate and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. I know every podcast says it, but it really does make a difference and helps us continue to grow the show. Finally, remember the motto of the library. Fear gives way to knowledge. Knowledge gives way to wisdom. And wisdom gives way to the truth. Until next time.